Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This making show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Go-Go Lubes Rangers Season 2, Episode 11. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we're picking up with the Uskubo and Fighter D fight, and them just clashing, him not wanting to give way. He's also going after her father, calling him like, oh god, like calling him out for and wanting to go after him. But for Uskubo, she believes in all of this. She's like, right, like, we want to support monsters. We are allies to monsters, whether you realize it or not. And it's like, what he's like, you don't really understand. The only one that knows me is me. But she's like, I do understand because I'm half monster. And we find out I wasn't fully clear on whether like Uskubo's dad, Isushi's whole situation, was he already soft on monsters beforehand, and that just grew even more upon meeting Uskubo's mom, or was meeting her the thing that changed him? I mean, I might have missed the context, and I might have like missed some lines that clarified it. It seemed ambiguous, but maybe it is just maybe it clearly said it and I just misconstrued it. But maybe it is just like, no, meeting Uskubo's mom did set him on his path. It's understandable why he would have the issues that he does. It's interesting because her mom is dead, but it makes you wonder, how did that happen? Especially because he's like, wait, sees a photo later on and is like, what is that monster? Doesn't look like one of the boss monsters we're aware of. Because she was kind of ostracized by the other boss monsters, and I'm wondering why. And how did she die? Was she killed and the Rangers are covering that up? But why? Why would like Hisui not know? Like, what would be so special about this particular boss monster that differentiate her enough to not let anyone else know? Is she a secret that one of the Dragon Keepers, most likely Red, would keep? I don't know. I'm wondering what the truth behind that story is. But yeah, but anyway, it adds more layers to us understanding why Uskubo's dad is doing what he's doing, because it's just kind of like, he even says, like, once again, he wants to flip the script on like, make basically the equality will be monsters ruling the world, and then humans being kind of the minority beings that are being rallied against, because that way it's like, oh, you can finally truly understand their pain, and only by empathizing with them and walking a mile in their shoes can you fully understand. Only then can things be equal. But it's like, yeah, you're going about equality the most like extreme way possible. So, however, before Uskubo and D could continue their fight, Izomi shows up because she's planning on getting revenge, because she heard last season, after everything went down, she heard that the one that killed Blue was D. But it's like, well, to be fair, they were fighting. He didn't land a final blow. It was Petrola. Even though he stabbed Blue, Blue had already been mortally wounded by Petrola. So it's like that. I mean, even D was upset at the time because like he felt like that fight was taken from him. But obviously Izomi's like, you're the one behind this, I know it. And so she ends up tussling with him, obviously kind of ignoring Uskubo. But then I love this little moment where D disguises himself as Uskubo and takes like the little divine artifact thing that she was going to use and starts running around. And the Uskubo starts going like, wait, basically drawing in other people into the fight, kind of using people. She's like, this seems a little deja vu-ish, because she's remembering the time as cadets, and she's on the cusp of realizing who D really is. So, but before she could really even piece that together, Izomi's like, I don't care which one of you is the real Uskubo, I will kill both of you if I have to. And she goes after D, stabbing him repeatedly. It's like, I hate you monsters. You should have never been born. Like, you took Blue away from me. Give him back. But, you know, and even D's like, I get it. He's like, that battle with Blue, I get it. That's what I've been chasing this entire time, because it was robbed from me. I guess that's his adding a layer of motivation of like, I need to prove myself even more, because what would have been this climactic battle, which could have been my battle, was robbed from me, and I've been kind of chasing that high ever since. But he's like, yeah, you humans are the exact same way. You fight so desperately to live, and it's like, oh, we do kind of have that in common. Like, I have spent so much time with humans, and as a human, kind of like, it's rubbed off on me. But she's just like, I don't care, it's just shut up. And rather than Uskubo getting the device, she ends up getting it, and she's like, this way I'll never be separated from Blue again. So she swallows the device, and it turns into this art. I guess it's meant to be like an amalgamation of different divine artifacts, because Uskubo was like, this is version 2.0, so I think maybe it's meant to accumulate multiple divine artifacts into one, but it mutates her body, morphing her arm into the shape that it does, but it's too much for her body to handle. Obviously, it being a divine artifact, it wrecks D, ends up like destroying his leg. I mean, you can, like, it just takes a while, but D would basically have to take pieces of himself to replicate his leg, not unless he's able to get like a prosthetic leg later. But I mean, that's how he dealt with the whole situation when he got wounded fighting Red back in like episode 3 of season 1. In the aftermath of that, like you find out in the next episode, he covered his wound by taking parts of himself elsewhere. So obviously that's not like a infinite supply, even though they can regenerate over and over again. I don't know, maybe it'll just take a longer time to eventually fill that void, but I think it's basically like a permanent scar. Maybe, but like I said, maybe the justification is he needs more time. Like it's such a perpetual damage thing that basically it's kind of destroying his cells as a duster, and so maybe it takes a long time for it to be able to properly start the regenerative process. Maybe, I don't know, because like ever since that situation with Red back in season 1, that never came up again about like if there were any permanent issues from him having to take parts of his body elsewhere to cover his wound. The thing I thought was so fascinating is when Uskubo uses her powers and growing angel wings, and you're like, so your first name is quite literal. Because it's like, we saw her mom, but like, it's really hard to say like what her mom was. But it's like, what I thought was so interesting is like when she uses her powers, it disrupts everything that's going on with Izomia. And it's like, because I almost felt like, I'm like, is there any going back for Izomia? That seems permanent, like perpetually, like it doesn't seem like something she could shut off. But Angel doing what she did, like it disrupted it. I don't know if it destroyed what was inside of her, or like kind of the healing powers of an angel or what, but like she did, like immediately the arm disappeared and she just passed out. So I don't know if it's like her powers like revert, like what they did exactly in that moment. But then she passes out. D is crawling away, sorry. And then elsewhere, we see Urabe's I think nephew and nieces like getting away and running into some of the other cadets or former cadets, or some still cadets who know him, and they're like, oh, have you seen him? And we find out him and some of the Blue Squad is up there in the like the monster fortress with the dusters, listening in radio wise to what's going on. And Urabe's like, oh my god, what was it? There's a connection between the monsters and the Rangers. So I was like, how did you end up in that situation? Why are you there? I was like, maybe he went to investigate upon the truth coming out. Because like the last time we saw him is when him and What's-Her-Face went up against Suzukiri and Fighter D. But then like Chidori showed up as the Green Keeper and kind of wrecked shop. That was the last episode we saw Urabe. So I'm like, has he been there? Like I said, ever since like Hualipan and Uskubo's dad kind of revealed everything on television, maybe. I kind of got spoiled in that, but not really, but kind of, sort of. Because I'm not the best with names, so I look it up on like Wiki or whatever. And I think I saw like, it said something about basically Urabe being missing or whatever. So I'm like, did he defect or something? And once again, I didn't have any context for it. I just saw his picture and it said, basically it was something along the lines of he defected, but I didn't read any details. It was just saying that about like he was no longer with the squad he was with. That was about it. So I didn't know the context for it. So I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm curious to see whether we see more of him. I mean, wonder is this going to be him choosing the monster side of things? I mean, because this seems like the end-all be-all for the Monster Protection Society, but I'm curious to see if this inspires people to continue it on, because once again, it feels like the Rangers doing what they're doing is meant to like nip that in the bud, like stop any other attempt from this rising, like something like this rising again, because the Monster Church gave birth to the Monster Protection Society, and it's like once they've kind of both been nipped in, now that they both are kind of, this is now in its final breaths of being alive, that it feels like the keepers will be able to kind of rein back public control, and no one will kind of be able to question them again, and like, no, we're on the right side of history type of thing. And I wonder if that's going to inspire people like Urabe, those other keepers, to just disappear, not to gain the ire of the keepers by like disappearing, or will they kind of continue on the legacy of the Monster Protection Society? Either way, we also have the appearance of the form that Uskubo's dad has taken, and it's I'm going to keep butchering the name. It's like Deathmecia. Deathmecia. And I love that basically it's a creator character design, because he's like, I studied this thing watching the old, like, you know, Dragon Keeper recordings and stuff, and he's like, oh, based on this and this must be the power, foreshadowing this and that. And basically it's like he gave it all these powers. And I even love, I think it's Red that's complaining like, oh man, he gave this thing all these, like, all the powers of like a kid would like fantasize about and give them on. But he's like, no, these are like, this is me replicating Deathmecia's powers. But it's like, he can make clones of himself, he can shoot out fire, he can stretch his arms. Does seem like he's got, and once again, it does feel like the most like creative character, like sicko mode thing of like, oh, I'm just gonna give him every power possible type of thing. Yeah, you can't beat him because he's got this power and this power and this power, you know? And it kind of makes sense that Uskubo's dad would kind of have that perspective on it, and like kind of have that stunted mind and correlation and connection with all of this. But yeah, the even with all this going on, the keepers can't get up and immediately get wrecked. But once again, is it real, or are you putting on a performance? Because I don't know. Well, we know what the end result is going to be because we see it in the opening. We're going to go full mech versus giant monster like next episode, you can assume. So I'm curious to see how that shapes up. Like, is this really them getting beat, or did they? I mean, to be fair, Cesara is actually wounded, and this thing is able to counteract all of their like divine artifacts with its own power. So we also finally circled back to the Suzukiri and Red situation, which I thought was so interesting, because he comes over and he's like, hey yo, go ahead and kill all of them, because I'm like, I guess they're not necessary anymore, and maybe he wants to get rid of them because it's like that why he was co-signing that, and Suzukiri is like, sure thing. I'm like, you're not secretly working together, right? I mean, because the sequences are probably done out of order, because you know that was a while ago. Like that was the post-credit scene, like maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago. Because I was about to say, like, we saw, even though we only saw his feet and like the bottom part of the costume, we clearly saw him show up for the Deathmecia fight. But it's like, yeah, but that was us rewinding a little bit to see the resolution to that. But him being okay with her getting rid of those other subjects, like I said, they seem like they're supposed to be clones of her, but maybe I was unsure then, and I'm unsure now. But when she was about to kill them, she stopped herself because she thought about, I think, her mom saying like, right, the most vulnerable time is like a newborn, and it's like basically every life is precious, so it shouldn't be tossed away. So because of that, she's like, right, they deserve to live. I'm not going to take their lives. The Red's like, well, you can do it now, or you're basically going to prolong their lives just for them to end up dead regardless, and it's going to be in a very brutal way. So if you want, I can end this here and now. She releases them, but then also threatens her own life. It's like, they might not be important to you, but I am. I can end this here and now. I am the last of my clan. I'm the only like original of the clan left. So I guess once again, the clones don't. They're probably imperfect clones, because it's like, we haven't been able to replicate you because we wanted to keep doing this, but we burned through every single member of the Suzukiri clan, like Yellow had explained like an episode or 2 ago, and she's the only original left. Which also gets rid of the theory I had. I was wondering if like she's one of many clones, but it's like no, she is the original. So he's like, stop being such a killjoy. The fact of the matter is, like, go ahead, like I'll let you go on and keep them alive, but it's like remember your place, as a dragon priestess. That like your life isn't your own. You basically belong to us. So interesting, and obviously finding out like her real name because they were like, oh, Yumiko, which I was like, I wonder is that supposed to be like? 'Cause at first I was like, oh, Muko is a real name, so I was like, is that where that comes from, or is it just like she took a name that was close to hers? Once again, I don't know Japanese enough to know if there's like some correlation or connection between those names. We also have Hisui running into Fighter D, who's limping. He like did the best he could with basically giving himself a peg leg, and now Hisui kind of pieces it all together. Like she does remember bits and pieces about like the Magatia fight, and she's like piecing things together. Like it's got to be you, the way you've been acting. So she wasn't sure, but I think now made her kind of question all of that. He's like, if you're going to get him on my way, we'll fight. But then like he falls into her arms and she's like, I hate monsters. Monsters killed my family. So I'm not going to want to ever really understand them. But she's like, but you, I do want to kind of want to know you more. And so she's like, I'm about to go deal with Deathmecia. So it's like, what are you gonna do? And he's just like, who do you want to fight against? He's like, I'm gonna deal with like Deathmecia. And she's like, okay, cool. Let's join together and go deal with that fake final boss or something like that. So interesting. Once again, that's at least two people who definitely know who you are. Well, three if you count Suzukiri, but obviously she's known since like episode 2. Wasn't that first episode? I think so. So it does beg the question, what does that mean going forward? Like, is he going to go back to pretending to be Hibiki and they're just all going to pretend like they don't know? I mean, Usukubo still hasn't fully figured it out yet. Also, what about the real Hibiki? The last time we saw him was after that fight with Hualipon, but then Petrola showed up and to grab up X's, and he was nearby. So how does that whole situation play out? So maybe we'll get clarity with that next episode. Unclear. Next episode is the season finale, so I'm curious to see how this all plays out, how this wraps up, and where it leaves us at the end of it all. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.